It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha. Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another night at the Brouhaha. That's a night at night at the opera ain't got nothing on us. This is a night at the Brouhaha. Dale, can you trip the light fantastic for us or something fancy for us here tonight?
Yeah, well, we always like to come before our audience of multiple thousands that listen to us and entertain them for a few minutes.
That's what we're about. Is this entertainment? Are we in entertainment business, or what kind of business is this?
I never really thought about it.
It's not mind your own business for sure.
Yeah.
Because you sports writers, you can't mind your own business. You're always minding somebody else's business.
Well, we're really supposed to just put the information out there and not be slanted in anything that we say.
Now, that's a good, because we all read sports. Mm-hmm. And anybody's listening to this show probably reads sports too. And you use the word slanted. Do sports, politically speaking, and all the access we've got to information these days, mm-hmm. You see all kinds of stuff slanted. Do people slant?
Well, when they started getting on TV, and of course, the TV's run a lot of the, the sports writing as far as the research and, and the really good stuff. Nowadays, everybody wants to say, let's fire Marshall Wood. He's not a really good offensive coordinator or a special team coach. He's terrible, and, how long are we going to put up with a baseball coach, or something like that? They're always wanting to fire somebody. I'm thinking, is that really your job? Let us decide if he needs to be fired. Right. You just write what he's done.
Well, see, you're a sports writer, and you guys are,
Yeah, but I'm the old-fashioned.
Oh, okay.
I'm not like these new guys. People don't really understand. I had sympathy for the people involved in the process. High school. Yeah. Now, college. You kind of put some innuendos in there, what you call them, but college, pros, you could attack them, because they're getting paid big money. But even when I wrote sports, especially for a high school game, if I went out to a high school game and a player fumbled the ball or he missed an important foul shot in the last seconds, his name was never mentioned. I would just say, so-and-so had a chance to win the ball game. They got down to the 5-yard line, but they turned the ball over.
Yeah.
They turned the ball over.
Elroy Jones falls at the 5 and messes up everything. You don't say that.
Well, I'm not like some of those high school football announcers.
Hey.
Say something like that. I wouldn't do that.
Oh, my goodness. Well, let's jump over.
Okay.
Before we sink this ship right off the bat, let's go to your sideline view. That's one of our mainstays every week. We appreciate that. And what you got in your view this week, Dale?
Well, we finally got the college baseball season over with. Mississippi State went up to Charlottesville and lost to Virginia a couple times. They rebounded and had a pretty good year this year. They won 40 ball games. So
that's pretty good.
That's a pretty good rebound from last year. Southern Miss went to the Tennessee Regional, had a tough time against the number one team in the country. And they just basically ran out of pitching that last night. They were upset in the first game by Indiana, but then they came back.
Boy, they wiped them out.
Got 2 great pitching performances against I think it was Northern Kentucky. And then they played Indiana again and just drilled Indiana in that second, in that rematch. So then they had a chance to play Tennessee.
Lucky them.
And they would have had to beat the Vols twice, but the first game, they actually had to lead up to about the 5th inning, but the pitching just kind of ran dry. And so anyway, but they ended up like 43-20. Coach Ostrander, former Gulfport High School coach, Jones Junior College coach, and now he's the head coach of Southern Miss. He's the first year rookie coach at Southern Miss to win 40 games in a year. So, they've had the history of Hill Denson, Scott Berry, and
That's quite a remarkable run with coaches and the way they keep them.
oh yeah, and so they had a great year. And of course, on the junior college scene, we had the, we talking about East Central because a couple of Wayne's County people were up there playing for them, and give a shout out to Luke Cooley. He was the fourth in the country and first in the state in strikeouts this year. He had like 116 strikeouts, but East Central went to the World Series. They got an at-large bid and went up there and had quite a run, won 4-6 games, lost our opener, and they actually had a 10-0 lead, I think, and lost it. But they did come back to win 4 straight, but they were defeated in the semifinals. So they ended up third, but they ended up like 55-9.
That's pretty doggone
And
good.
they started the season, if you remember, like 31-0.
Yeah.
So they had quite a season. And
Let me tell you something about it, if I don't mind interrupting.
Sure.
Cameron Carlisle, I worked with Wayne Carlisle, and his son was on that team, pitches on that team too. We talked about him, and he went to the whole thing. And that's it. I thought about getting Wayne on here. And so what's it like for a father, with a kid pitching in a World Series, and he was up there for the whole time. He's got a lot of tales. He said like they won 4 games. He said, would have won 2 more games, we'd have been champs or something like that.
Yeah.
It was really close. They made a real fine stand, and we're proud of them. Of course, Luke's moving on to Louisiana Tech, and then Cameron is going to be back next year at East Central. And 2 more Wayne Academy guys are going up there. I think I get them all confused, but there's a couple more I think going up there to East Central. So that's a real fine baseball program they got here.
They surely do. They surely do.
We salute them, and we salute the folks at East Mississippi and all of our schools representing Mississippi around the United States.
Yeah, and we had another Wayne County boy, Will Hodo, played for Alabama.
That's right.
And they got to play in the Tallahassee regional this year. Now they didn't do as well as they wanted, but they got a taste of it.
Yeah.
And so that's always good to be able to do that. But now we've got the Super Regionals coming up this weekend, and you mentioned only win 2 more. Well, this weekend, all you got to do is win 2. You go to the World Series.
That's easy, isn't it?
Yeah, just 2 wins.
2 games.
2 games.
Man, to go to the series,
Yeah.
we could probably win a couple of games, Dale.
Yeah.
What else you got in that little bag of tricks called the sideline view over there? Anything else?
Well, we talked about the SEC, and they met last week down in Destin, Florida, and they came up with pretty good deals. This year is going to be the first year that we don't have divisions in the SEC football. Yeah. It's going to be just 16 teams because, Oklahoma and Texas officially members July the 1st. They're not quite yet there, but they are going to become members here in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And so there'll be 16 teams in SEC, and so the top 2 teams in the final standings of the 16 will play in Atlanta for the SEC championship on December the 7th. And so they also decided, these are things they actually decided, because I think the theme all week was we got more questions than we do answers about this future of the NCAA. So they were trying to deal with that because from a money standpoint, I think each school is, I know Ole Miss, I'm not sure about Mississippi State, but I did hear Keith Carter talk, and he said that Ole Miss was going to have to come up with $20 million for the settlement to start playing players, and so that was a great topic down there. But they did discuss basketball wise, the men, since we've added the 2 teams to the conference, they're going to start playing 18 games instead of 16. The women will remain at 16, and of course the SEC football season starts that weekend of the 30th. I think Oklahoma and Temple are going to play on Friday, August 30th. Now, Friday, that's an interesting thing because they switched the Egg Bowl to Friday.
I saw that in the afternoon, right?
It's going to be at 2:30. It's going to be on ABC. But the thing about it is that, but it will conflict with the Mississippi High School South State Championships. That's their weekend. That's that Friday night, so that's going to be.
They play all day Friday and all day Saturday, don't they? So they'll be playing championships while
No. This is South State.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Or North
I got
State,
you.
ever what you call it
Okay.
now, But what I'm saying, that would be the following weekend,
I got you.
December I guess it
First
would be-
Friday and Saturday in
Yeah,
December.
that's what it is. But they were just talking about. But we got some interesting non-conference battles that first weekend, August 31st and September the 1st.
Let's hear 'em.
That Saturday, the 31st, we got Georgia and Clemson going to meet again for the first time in a long time.
That'd be interesting.
They're going to meet in Atlanta. And Miami's going to visit Florida. That's always
That'd be
a good game. I don't care if they 2-9. Watch it.
This is fur gonna be flying down there, buddy.
It's And then there's another interesting game. Notre Dame's going to visit Texas A&M. And, just the Irish, the Irish playing anybody, anywhere, that's going to be
The
the
Irish
biggest.
are a big deal, and I got so much
Yes,
paper
sir.
over here. We'll talk about them maybe a little later
Yeah.
on. They were
And,
one of the things in history.
Then the next night, a Sunday night,
Sunday night
Sunday
football,
night.
baby.
LSU will head to Las Vegas.
It'd be just like them Tigers play on Sunday.
Yeah.
Maybe that calm them down
And
playing on Sunday.
They're going to build USC. I did learn something last night that I did not know.
I don't believe there was anything you could learn.
Okay, I learned it. I went to hear Lane Kiffin, and we'll get into that later. But Lane didn't say this. but this did come from an administrator at Ole Miss. That Ole Miss was the second sold the second most beer in a football game last year. But you know who the leading was?
LSU, baby.
LSU, baby.
Yeah. They party hardy in Tiger Town, buddy. They set the standard, buddy.
They sure do. But also, I learned from the meetings that I did not attend. I just, picking up tidbits on TV and places like that. But they did Oklahoma, let me see. Oklahoma and Texas coming into the league. Okay. So people were interested in their first conference game.
Okay.
Who would they play?
Good question.
Well,
Yes.
anyway, so they said that the Oklahoma will play their first SEC game on September 21st when they entertain Tennessee. Well, now Tennessee's head coach played at Oklahoma. He was the quarterback.
Oh.
Yeah, he was the quarterback, so that'd be interesting. And the first Texas SEC game will be the following week, September 28th. They're going to entertain Mississippi State.
Welcome to this.
So the Bulldogs will get a taste of Texas.
Oh, that's probably
Okay.
going to be a tough
Now,
deal. right
also, on that same day, Mississippi State, Texas may be overshadowed a little bit. Georgia is going to visit Tuscaloosa.
Ooh-wee. So hunkering down in Titletown, son.
Now, the first year, this year, so State's going to play Texas. Well, that means they won't play Oklahoma this year. They'll play them next year.
Okay.
They'll rotate in that spot. So Oklahoma will probably come to Mississippi State next year, if that makes sense to you.
It does. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to break your chain of thought. But, we've talked about this when this all first started, about the scheduling model. And it's my understanding, through the reading I do, and I defer to you, that they really haven't reached how they're going to schedule permanently yet. They're still considering the pod deal that we talked about a couple of years ago. Is that true, or is that just something, or are they?
Well, from what the information I gathered, this year we'll still have the 8-game schedule.
Okay.
But in the future, it'll probably be this year, next year.
Okay.
Then the following year, which will be 2026, there'll probably be a 9-game schedule.
Ooh.
Now, how that works out, I don't know. But people are still going to be permanent. I think, I'm not sure about all of it. I think Ole Miss is constantly going to play LSU and Mississippi State, and I think Arkansas. I'm not sure who Mississippi State's 3 are besides Ole Miss. Might be Arkansas and somebody else. Yeah, but anyway, I just know looking at the schedule this year, Mississippi State's got a brutal schedule.
They do, man.
I mean, I think after that a Texas game, they may have Georgia.
It'll be tough to be a dog.
Yeah, I mean, it's of course, Ole Miss is no slouch with it too. They've got a pretty demanding schedule, even though they don't play Alabama and Auburn.
Yeah.
And anyway, but when the unofficial kickoff to college football season is in the South?
I do not.
Okay, it's July the 15th. It's in Dallas this year. It's considered the SEC Media Days.
In Dallas.
In Dallas.
In Dallas.
In Dallas.
Are you going?
No, I'm not. I'm going to have to. I've been talked into going to Branson, Missouri that week.
Okay.
So,
you rascal.
so anyway,
You're gonna go further. Okay.
little family vacation.
Well, I tell you what, Dale. We're about halfway through our time. We've been going. You've been going. We've been going so good. But let's take a break to hear from our sponsor, and then we'll be back.
Always use a break.
We got a two segment tonight. We'll be back with our final segment right after this word from our sponsor.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome back, everybody. And tonight you may have realized we don't have a guest. Dale and I thought we would just sit down and chat a little bit. And so here we go for round 2. Dale?
This has got to catch up a week, We have to talk about stuff that we need to talk about, but we just didn't have time to talk about it. Because our guests, sometimes they like to just ramble on. Ramble on,
Well, you want to hear some rambling, you just let
you just listen to the next few minutes.
Well, now, you were talking about what Kiffin said.
Kiffin, yeah.
So we got our ears on. Tell us what Kiffin said.
Well, I got the pleasure of going to Hattiesburg last night, and they had a little...
Who'd you go with?
Function. Well, let's don't talk about it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I crossed the line, didn't I?
Anyway, I don't know who that guy, but he got me in late. It was like 9 o'clock before I got home.
Because I've been asleep
I didn't get
2
sleep
hours.
till 9:30. It was just terrible. It was just a terrible night there,
Oh, and this was in Hattiesburg?
Yeah, it was in Hattiesburg, the country club.
Hey,
Yes,
country club,
Yes,
man.
sir,
Where else would Kiffin speak other than a country club?
Country club, yeah.
Well, what they talk about at the country club?
Well, he talked about his football team, and he said, you just don't, in this day and time, you just don't do anything without evaluating it after it's over. Even if it's good, you have to evaluate everything that you do. He talked about the spring game and how it was different. He said, well, our philosophy going in is we didn't want to get anybody hurt, and we didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't want anybody to transfer out because they didn't get enough playing time, and mamas and daddies, hey, you need to transfer, you ain't gonna play enough, and stuff like that. So he said he achieved that goal. Nobody transferred, nobody got hurt, and so he said, but he learned something very valuable, and I remember Nick Saban used to say, you don't lose, you learn. If that makes sense to you.
You don't lose, you learn. You don't lose what you learn?
No, you don't. When you lose, you learn.
Oh, I got you. You learn from your mistake.
Yes.
I got you.
So he said that when they went to Georgia last year and got their rear end handed to them, if you remember that game.
Oh, I do.
He said, they were evaluating, okay, what is our issue? Okay. Well, he thought it was the front seven on defense. He thought Georgia's front seven manhandled his offensive unit.
Yeah.
So the first thing he said was, we need to get bigger, stronger in the offensive line. Well, they brought in 4 transfers. North Carolina got a really good player from Southern Miss and got 2 from Washington.
Big ones.
Yeah, big ones inside. So he said he feels good about that. He said they got the Bentley kid into coming back, at running back.
Yeah.
They got Parrish to come back from Miami.
That's a big get right there.
Yeah, he played for them as a freshman. He's coming back, so the running backs room is pretty good shape. And of course, they may not be as deep this year as they were last year at quarterback. Now I know that sounds, people say, well, they got a great quarterback. They do have a great quarterback room, but the experience there is only in Jackson Dart and the backup Walker Howard. The other guys are basically first-year players. and the Austin Simmons and the kid from Hattiesburg, from Oak Grove.
Yeah.
So, they've got inexperience. Well, last year they had the transfer from Oklahoma State in there with Walker and Jackson. So, so he feels pretty good about that. He feels like they improved the front seven on defense. They got the big lineman out of Texas A&M to.
They got a big one out of Florida too. One of them got hurt. Is going to miss some games though, right?
I'm not sure. He didn't mention a whole lot about that. He was just mentioning some stuff that people would ask him and and things like that. But they don't talk. It's just like I've been asked to do a preview for a magazine in August for the Southern State and Ole Miss previews. To put in a magazine, and so I'm there complicating what I'm going to do there. And back in the old days, I was telling somebody the other day, I can say, well, Kiffin says that so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so is going to be in the running for this position. Coaches won't tell you that anymore because they're so afraid that if somebody sees their name as a backup, well, I'm going to back up. I'm going to get out of here. I mean, it's gotten that bad, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
So, so he's, it's kind of, it's like pulling teeth, you have to ask them almost direct questions, and things like that. But Keith Carter spoke, and we'll get into that here on another subject that we got, and I'll tell you what he said a little bit about it. Got to hear the basketball coach, and she said one thing that reflected really well on me at that time, really meant a lot to me. She said, teams don't win championships, or players don't win championships. Teams don't really win championships. It's the whole community wins a championship. And what she means like that is everybody has to buy in. She said she's glad she's at Ole Miss because it is everybody buys in. Because it's a small town, really. I mean, think about it compared to the other, places, and things like that. So, I think our community sometimes divides us all.
We've seen that here.
Yeah, and so if we can get everybody back together, because I remember the first state championship that Wayne County won. I mean, these streets were flooded with folks. Flooded. And now it's like an afterthought, You're going to go to the game? Well, maybe. Well, they were battling to get there at 5 o'clock to get a seat back in the day, you know.
Sir.
And that just doesn't happen anymore. So, I think the community needs to, hey, if you want to have a winner,
you got to get on board.
You got to do your part.
I mean, everybody.
Everybody.
Because you talk about being on the same page, and whether it's if it's in Wayne County, if it's in Jackson, Mississippi, if it's in Arkansas, California, wherever, if you got a community, and just like you said, your community could be a town, a community could be a university, the communities. I love that. It's a community championship because if you get people in the community, my daddy had a word called yang. You ever heard of yang? They go, yang.
I think Jerry Seinfeld stole that, didn't he?
Well, I don't know, but if he might have, because my dad's a lot older than Jerry Seinfeld. But, we see that here. You get a lot of yang. People ain't happy. They want everything to go their way. They want to change. And when you start doing that, you're not doing anything but destroying. Mm-hmm. Negative communicate. If you want to help, you want them to do good, then shut up and get on board. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, what can I do to make things better?
Yeah. About half people, what can I do to make things worse? I mean, that drives me nuts. But I'm going to get on the soapbox. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to get off. What, he say anything else?
He just yin yang.
Yeah. It's yang. It ain't yin yang.
Nothing. He did. So somebody asked him about since his dad was a famous NFL defensive coordinator for years. Why is he such a good offensive coordinator? I mean, why is Kiffin so gifted on offense? And he said, I learned from my dad what defenses don't like. He said, I learned from Nick Saban what defenses don't like. He said, I learned from Pete Carroll when I was coaching USC.
What a
And he
lesson.
said, I learned from three of the best. And he said, I just kind of know now what defenses, how you can attack certain areas and what they don't like and things like that. But, he said, all goes back to, players have to make plays in the end.
Yeah. I'm gonna say this about him, and I'm gonna get off of it for a minute. But he's a master. He really is at seeing things and making them happen. I lost my chain of thought about what I was going to say about Lane, but he's the way he handles his rosters. You talk about that spring game. That was a thing of genius. It really was. A lot of people, we didn't play. Well, there's a lot of reasons, and you've already talked about those.
Yeah.
But he manages the portal, and he manages all this stuff, his roster, extremely well, better than most, because that's a whole different thing than coaching X's and O's.
He did talk. He did do one little funny tidbit. He's just not an outgoing guy. I'll be honest with you, especially in crowds. But he said somebody asked him about his field goal kicker. His field goal kicker is really, really good. I mean,
didn't they sign one? Or they got one?
Well, I think they had one from last year, maybe, or something. But anyway, I'm not really familiar with who the field goal kicker is up there, to be honest with you. So the person was asking him, said, how far can he kick it? And he said, well, I don't really know, but he said, I got fired from one job with the Raiders one time, the Oakland Raiders, because I attempted a 76-yard field goal. Remember when he had the old sidewinder from Florida State? Old guy kicked for about 50 years up there.
Janikowski?
Yeah, Janikowski. He tried a 76-yarder. He said, the only reason I did, I was mad at the owner. He said he evidently got mad at me because he fired me. And he said, but I'll refer that question to Keith Carter, who was sitting across the table there, and he was, he's the AD at Ole Miss, and he said, how far should I let him do it? And Carter come back, just go for it. Just go for it.
Janikowski is the interesting story. He came out of Florida State, and back in the day, but back in the day, Florida State and Bobby Bowden had great teams, and they were coming up short. They were just a couple of years, they missing field goals, and
wide left.
He made it his purpose to find the best kicker he could find, and he got Janikowski, and they won a national championship or two with that guy kicking, I think. But he was a big deal.
Yeah,
big deal.
Yeah.
We talk about change. There's so much change. This change business it's not slowing down. I mean, Paul Feinberg. You know who Paul Feinberg is? It's Feinbaum. But anyway, my bad, folks. But there's some new legislation. He said which may be the most significant day in NCAA history. We still don't know a lot about this, but this focuses around on the NCAA. I don't know, allowing or passing on the ability to the universities to directly pay the student athletes. Now that's not NIL, but now the way I understand it, they're going to have to go back, and there was a lawsuit several years back, so they're going to have to go back and pay players that were on rosters, and I think it's going to cost like $20 million.
Well, I think Keith Carter said last night they got a $20 million payment they're going to have to come up with, and maybe it's a one-time payment.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have to start, paying the players. But the thing I ask you is, when they start paying the players, are they employees then? Are they going to be taxed? Are they going to be?
By the IRS regulations, I'd say they're employees, not independent contractors. So I would say they would be.
So they won't have a 1099. They'll just.
They may get a W-2.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll have to withhold on that, because they're not independent contractors by the IRS definition.
Yeah.
So they would have to get W-2s and have taxes withheld and everything else.
Yeah.
Now the thing about that we're about out of time, but we're going to get this again and hit it hard. So they're going to be paying the players, and I can't remember what it's an annual amount. Let's see. They got to come up with $2.75 billion to cover everything, but $20 million per year directly to the athletes is what they're going to be going forward to, is what I read. But the big thing is, what's going to happen to the NIL? I guess they can still go, and they not only because the NIL is not the college paying the players. That's an independent group of these consortiums. So they're still going to be able to. They're going to have to pay them out of the school's money, but they'll also have NIL money that they can still continue to pay players with too. So they're going to have multiple revenue streams into these players now. That's interesting. I mean, that will do away with one.
But, too, I've even read where, unfortunately, if they do this, because of the total cost, now the $20 million payment is a one-time deal for the older players.
For the older guys.
Okay, but
the gone guys.
They're talking about, okay, if this comes about, the bad part of this is going to be that they may have to do away with some of their minor sports because they're not going to be able to afford them. Because they can't pay those players too.
Minor sports.
Now, I don't know what a minor sport is. I assume that the major sports in college now are going to be the football and the basketball.
Men's football or women's basketball and men's basketball?
Yeah, and the baseball and the softball. But all these other little sports may be, I don't know, cross country. I mean, they may keep female soccer only because that they'll have to do it because of Title IX.
That's what I was going to say, Title IX.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with Title IX? I've got volumes printed out of Title IX because to talk about there's so many things to talk about with Title IX and why it came into existence and how it's being destroyed with the transgender movement. But anyway, we'll get out of that. Right now, folks, we're out of time.
We are. We just started.
I know. Dale, you never shut up. Sorry to track time, but you did a great job.
We did?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was I kind of like the guest, or were you the guest?
No, you were the guest.
Okay, so
you're a great guest now.
Okay.
You're excused.
Okay.
But anyway, appreciate you, Dale. We had a good time. Hope you all enjoyed your time with the Brouhaha tonight. Go ahead, Dale.
I think we need to get a guest next week to let the people know how good we are.
Yeah, let's go with that. I want y'all to remember you can follow us on Facebook at the Brouhaha, and all of our programs are cataloged on our YouTube website where you can watch them or listen to them on demand at the Brouhaha. We appreciate y'all being with us tonight, but now it's that time of the evening where we have to say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, folks, and we'll see you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Get us out of here, Jamie.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Dale McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.